Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. And in many ways, I'm sorry to pull you out from that lovely snacks and drinks and the session and the chats that were happening out there. But I'll try and make this a little more interactive in the sense, what are we seeing around us and how is this, in a way, preparing us for the future? Some of the things that we are seeing here, some of the ambitions that we are seeing here in India, and some of the lessons we are seeing in what's happening in the other countries globally. And I'll try and present a mix of these just to see what is the relevance and especially of the smart metering agenda that we have in India today. Okay? Yeah. So basically for us at Cuculus, we are a fully utilities focused software applications company, right? For us, the utilities mean, can we make it affordable for all our customers, consumers, call it what you like. But this is the biggest single driver for all that we do. And we have created a specialist team which is across several offices and across continents that we are operating. And we are creating a critical infrastructure which allows the utility to ride on. It allows the digitization process per se to come in, and that brings with it not only a lot of challenges in the short run, but it also tries to give you some long-term benefits which far outweigh the short-term pains that you have to go through to bring these in. So talking specifically about the AMI implementation in India, we are lucky in the sense that it took us a few years. The first pilots in India were brought in by Government of India in 2014. 14 pilot projects were awarded or going to be awarded, actually ended up with 9 getting done. But it took almost 5 years for that to happen. And that itself was a learning where as a community, we all decided we needed standardization on equipment, we needed standardization on how various equipment talk to each other, how data would be exchanged, how business processes would run. And unless we achieved this and we had a stable ecosystem, this 250 million meters is going to be a pipe dream. And even if it gets somehow installed in the field, you're not going to realize any benefits. And therefore, we started with a guidelines from CEA in 2016, followed by a couple of standards from BIS on metering, on the way integrations would happen. And then we ended up with a standard bidding document under the REC, NSGM, Ministry of Power, which basically said, this is how on a boot model, on a TOTEX kind of a financing arrangement, this project has got to be delivered, and this is the minimum that you need to do. And all tenure is of the order of 10 years with an implementation of period of about 2.5 years and 7.5 years of operations and maintenance after that. So if we look at across an AMI value chain, there is devices out in the field with communication and then the back-end IT applications. Today, as per SPD, most of these have to be in the cloud itself. And as the 2 or 3 main elements here are the head-end system, or the HES, and the meter data management, or the MDM, and then of course is the connectors to the business systems. The 2 major elements, the HES and MDM, is the ones I would like to talk about. HES is the technical side of an AMI system. It manages devices, it manages networks, it manages control actions. It is the one talking to everything in the field. It is the one managing data. It is handling the huge volume velocity of data coming through. And the MDM is essentially the business side of things. It crunches the data, refines it, gives it to billing, handles prepayment, handles reporting, MIS, etc. That is the business side of things. So, and this separation is more logical than the names HES and MDM, and I hope that you keep that in mind whenever you're thinking of an AMI. Okay. At the core of this journey of helping digitize, automate, hasten is not about just reducing the number of people in a utility. It is about protecting resources. It is about reducing cost of supply. It's about making the process smooth for all stakeholders, which includes the utility, it includes the consumer, it includes the suppliers, it includes the generators, everybody, right? And this is the essential driver behind all this for us as we take on this journey. As a company, we are based out of Germany and very, very diversified with almost 38 languages being spoken within our company. But that brings to us the knowledge, the domain knowledge to us as a company from various countries, how utilities behave and how they want to do their business. And this is not just limited to electricity, but water, gas, cooling, heating. And now, of course, we're talking about smart cities applications like EVs and street light management and so on and so forth. So just to recap again, the key drivers for us to enable the AMI business is the business propositions, the compliance and regulatory requirements that are coming through, integration of renewables, which has been talked of at length by the previous speakers, so I'm not going to spend too much time there. There is this low-hanging fruit where reducing AT&C losses is a big driver for some utilities, though for some utilities we are closer to the objective now, and therefore that is no longer the main driver. But there are other drivers as well, for example, improving customer services. And we will talk more about that as we go further, right? In the value chain in a smart metering system, the red part where we talked about the head-end AMI and MDM, this is where one of the challenges lie. Earlier, we started the RDSS program by saying the first project in a utility, and the utility may be across a big geographical area, but they were giving out AMI projects by city or geographical area. We said the first project will have an MDM, which integrates to the legacy systems, and then below it we have the head end and the meters and the communications. And all subsequent projects will integrate into the same MDM. This made very good sense, because not only do you save on the implementation of the MDM, but you save a hell of a lot on integrating that to the legacy systems and managing the data flows. However, now the scenario is a lot different. Over the last about 10 months, now the view is every project is a standalone project by itself, at least up to the MDM. And all projects then try integrating into the legacy, and this is by no means a simple challenge to handle. It's going to be a very, very rough journey on this one. But I'm sure we will, the people who implement this will take note of this and will probably try and bring this up as they face these challenges. But these are some things that we have already seen in other markets. So the Zonos core platform that we have caters to all kinds of utilities, but more importantly, it's a modular structure which essentially deals with the technical elements, which is the field devices, and the business side, business processes, and how you run your operations on the other side. The key elements which have to be built into any such applications are the flexibility, because business processes especially are different in every utility, no matter what anybody says. There is obviously scalability involved, because I don't think outside India anybody has seen these many number of AMI projects being launched in under 2 years, and each of these projects of the order of 3, 4, 5 million meters. Forget about implementing. One of the challenges we see is at that stage where a bid is going in, people cannot even size the applications properly for the cloud. Forget everything else. How are you going to deliver this? We find it challenging, having done projects of that size, because the requirements are very, very different. There is a myth that we are dealing with 2 million, 3 million meters. Sorry, that's not what it is. It is about dealing with so many billions of data points every day, and that is more important. The frequency, the volume and velocity is the more important criteria. How are you going to handle that volume of data when it hits your application? And that is amongst the biggest challenges we have. Once the data is in your data center, you can always scale up using your computing power and say, I will process it and give it to my business systems. Sure, you can do that. But again, how do you size it? How do you make it happen? How often do you make it happen? Some utilities start by saying, oh, I need real-time energy accounting. Sorry, what does that mean? Okay, so we have 15-minute blocks. We are assuming that we get all the data. Firstly, that itself is a challenge. But assuming you get all that, please remember 2, 3, 5 million meters out there, every meter is drifting in time. There is no time synchronization. They are out of sync with each other, and we are trying to get that data and then real time process it and say, here is the loss assessment at feeder level, at transformer level. Okay. Let us assume for a minute we do it. What is the utility going to do with it? Besides printing nice reports, what are you going to do with it? The point I'm trying to make here is, we create such a huge infrastructure in the name of real-time accounting, which we are not going to use. Let's be practical about it. Even if I get it once a day, once a week, all as a utility you can do is, let's target the top 5%, 10%, let's go there and see what's got to be done. So please be very judicious when you talk about additional infrastructure, because whatever you do at data center, you got to replicate on high availability, you got to replicate on DR, and you got to maintain all this, and it becomes increasingly more and more complex. And the moment you bring in other applications, then it's the zoning concept of security, and then how do you make sure that nobody gets into this, right? And it is by no means a speculation. There will be people trying to do cyber attacks. There will be people trying to take over these systems. Think of a city like Delhi. Somebody is switching off 5 million consumers at the same time. It can be absolutely horrifying, that thought. Think of the number of people who are sick, law and order problems, people getting stuck in traffic, in lifts, in getting injured, what all it can cause. And just a stark reminder for this is, 3 years ago, we actually had this incident in Kanpur where 150,000 meters were switched off in less than 2 minutes. And it took a long while to somebody to find out what happened and try and bring them back online. That fortunately was a mistake, but even that caused a lot of pain. And you can imagine what happens is if somebody were to get control of all this and is able to switch off cities. Okay. So I'd also like to bring to the table some of the experiences we have had, especially dealing with SAP, the ecosystem. We've collaborated on sub-projects levels. One of the projects that we have done is in Salzburg, Austria, where close to 500,000 meters are up and running. We have integrated to the SAP ERP and billing there, but it's also one of the most secure DLMS high-level key management systems in there, ensuring the cybersecurity end-to-end, encryption from device right up to the business levels. And this is one of the very important projects that we have done together and collaborated on. The other project we have done, worked closely with the SAP team here, is in Dubai, where 1.2 million meters are being interrogated every 15 minutes, and the entire data is being handled and managed not only in the HES MDM but also to the SAP ERP and billing, and also to the SCADA systems at the same time. And this again is a very complex project which picks up almost 40 billion messages of data every month. That is the level of data complexity we are talking of here. And we always look ahead to working and collaborating with SAP and the ecosystem that they bring, so that we can work on more projects and at a deeper and a wider level, because it does add value to what we are doing, and hopefully we can add value to what you guys are delivering out there. So after that, just before I kind of close down my presentation, I just want to leave a couple of thoughts with you. AMI is about the first building block in a smart grid. It's the gateway to the consumer's home. And you can do a lot of things with that. Disaggregation to find out what are the appliances not doing so well within the premises. There are aggregations, so you can find out, can I do demand side management? Can I do innovative tariffs? A lot of things around that you can develop as you go. Equally, why are we digitizing? Why are we looking at this today in such a focused manner under RDSS? And my personal opinion is, we are not talking just about bringing in IT systems, just about automation, not just about flexibility and bringing in new business processes to cope with it. But this is about leapfrogging from where we are today, the way we work today, to some of the scenarios that we will be facing in, let's say, in the next 5 to 10 years. And let me share some of those scenarios with you. The Electricity Act 2002 laid down an ambition for us that we want competition in the distribution sector. It hasn't happened so far, except for Mumbai is an area where we have that in India today. But this is an ambition which we have for many other places within India. If your AMI digitization project is not properly designed and executed, how will you ever allow competition in the distribution space? You can't do it. And therefore, take an example of UK, which has competition down to every domestic customer being allowed to pick one of the 40 suppliers. You can just do it by a click of a button. One click on the mouse and you've changed suppliers. That's the end of the process. That's all it takes. How do you get to that stage? Unless you start by automating this system. The second important scenario which the future holds for us is, we are bringing in things like electric vehicles. Our infrastructure, unfortunately, is going to remain the same for many, many years going forward. this infrastructure will become a bottleneck. Think of an example. We have a transformer, let's say a 500 kVA transformer feeding 200 homes. Suddenly 50 people in that area buy electric vehicles. And in the evening, all of them come home and switch on their charging. What's going to happen? Possibly a blackout. Those 50 vehicles are going to be more load than what the transformer can feed. So the normal loads cannot be fed. The only ways to manage these local constraints are going to be things like smart charging. And those are the things that you need to think of when you are talking about AMI. Because that can be executed, staggered charging, when there is capacity, do the charging, use vehicle to grid feedback, right? And how do you bring all this together is something that is the digitization, that is the automation, that is the operational control that I was referring to. And also to add to this is home energy management. It's all very nice and good to say we will apply TOD tariffs, okay? So there is electricity which is cheap at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd like to switch on my washing machine, but how do I do it? Okay, I might do it for a few days. I might call up somebody, say 2 o'clock, please go and switch it on. Will it last? Absolutely no chance. So you got to give them some tools to say, set it up, leave it, it'll handle itself. So things like smart home plugs, which can be operated through, let's say, your mobile phone or through a device which has a pre-decided set of rules set in there. You got to give them the tools to operate it, otherwise it's not sustainable. And those are the things, those are the hooks you need to think about in this digitization journey. Thank you very much. Yes, sure, of course.
Thank you. Very pertinent insights and questions you've raised, and I'm sure we'll have, certain thoughts coming up, looking for answers. Okay. You have a question? Okay, sure. Can you please pass on the mic, please, Shalini? Yeah.
थैंक यू सर, आपने बहुत अच्छी इंसाइट दी है, स्पेशली स्मार्ट मीटरिंग के केस में. एवरीबडी इज स्ट्रगलिंग. जितने भी लोग हैं आज के डेट में, जितने भी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन टीम है, जितने भी मीन्स ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, सब स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं कहीं ना कहीं. डेफिनेटली आपको ज़्यादा अच्छे से पता होगा. आपके जो ये सॉल्यूशंस हैं सिंगल हेडेड और विद द SAP, दे कैन मैनेज दिस स्मार्ट मीटरिंग प्रॉब्लम्स इन अ बेटर वे. If yes, then how your application is different from the others?
See, the biggest challenges on a successful AMI rollout, and especially I'm sure you've talked to people who are actually doing this, communication in a neighborhood area is the biggest challenge to a smart metering project. And if you have different devices, we claim all of them speak DLMS. We claim they are IS compliant, but it is like आप और मैं हिंदी में बात कर रहे हैं, मेरा dialect आपसे अलग है, मेरी pronunciation आपसे अलग है. So I need some kind of a customization to understand what you're saying. ठीक है? How do you handle the various flavors of that protocol? How do you manage to handle the various communication techniques that are used? How do you manage to bring all these different devices together? That is the single biggest challenge that we have tried to address in what we call ourselves as a universal S. Any device, any protocol, any comms. And once the data is in there, I'm sure most IT systems can handle it from there. And then the second part is, how do you manage to share this data, again it's huge amount of data, with multiple applications at the same time? If you are going to dump this all into a database and expect everybody to go to the database and try and pick it up from there, you're going to have a traffic jam sooner or later. Can you make it as part of your architecture to say, I will share it with 5 applications at the same time? If there is an outage, my workforce management needs to know, my HES needs to know, my operations team need to know, maybe my call center needs to know, right? My consumer may need a push on their app to tell them this has happened, I will come back to you within so much time. How do you make this all happen? You have to think of integrated solutions. You can't have standalone solutions.
Sorry. As you said that a lot of data is being generated for the smart metering system.
Yes.
Currently, we see that almost 500 TB, 1000 TB, 2000 TB data is being generated.
Absolutely.
And is stored in the database. And no database is able to handle such amount of data. What is your application is able to handle more than 5,000, 10,000 TB data or?
Okay. I would not say the databases cannot handle that amount of data. It's about what you want to do with that data. Okay. If you are storing it and trying to create an archive and then create some logics and business intelligence out of it, that is one thing. If you are trying to do dashboarding and real-time performance and other intelligent things, you can't do it with the same database. You got to replicate, take out a chunk, do it quickly, use large open search or some tools to make that happen, right? So there is no, unfortunately, there is no one single answer what you can do with the one database, right? There is about a discussion about what you want to do. Do I go relational database? Do I go time series? Do I slice it up? Can I do reporting on a smaller slice? Can I share it with multiple applications? All these approaches have to be taken at the same time. That's the only way you will be able to use that data, right? But this data, believe me, is very, very powerful. I'll give you an example, and that is why, and also very important to understand, and this is a legal issue, in many parts of the world, this data does not belong to the equipment supplier, it does not belong to the AMISP, it does not belong to the utility, it only belongs to the consumer. And there have been now people who have disaggregated this data and actually can tell you from the data what time do you get up, what time do you go for a shower, what time do you go to office, what appliance you have switched on, what's your lifestyle, and tell some robbers what time to come home and it's safe to do it. It's possible to do that. And it has actually been seen on data, and we have actually had incidents like this in the UK, and that's why it is now enshrined in law that you cannot share that data. So please be very careful how you handle that data and keep it safe.